What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the NeoVintage podcast. I'm Jabril, and I'm here with
Steve. How you guys doing?
And for y'all who don't know, we just talk over the biggest stories in gaming. So to start out, we always go over the games we've been playing. So what have you been playing?
So continuing off last week, I'm still keeping it light, trying to avoid big games before Animal Crossing, Doom, Final Fantasy. So,
the 20th.
Yeah, the 20th, that big date. So I'm just still cleaning up some trophies in Persona 3 Dancing. So I'm like 2 trophies away. So by next week, I'll probably have the platinum. Super annoying. Super annoying.
Is it grindy?
Yeah. It's like super like precisive, like how many stupid glasses you wear and get like you have to play the song like 4 times to get the partners.
Grinding in a rhythm game is serious business.
Yeah.
That sounds brutal.
Yeah, my wife's tired of hearing it. Like she knows some of
that audio must drive
she
her
knows
nuts.
some of the songs and she's like,
it's a good soundtrack.
Like, can you stop at least?
At least it's a good soundtrack.
Like, she does have a favorite. There's a favorite, so there was a positive. So I've been playing that. Then Hades still on PC, which is the guys who made Transistor and Bastion.
Okay.
So it's their roguelike game. Still really liking that. Makes it feel nice and something I can jump in, do a couple floors, and then clear out. And then besides that, this week all else I played was the Final Fantasy 7 demo, which we'll get to in a minute. What have you been playing?
So I finally paused Division. I'm gonna get back to it at some point. It ain't going nowhere, but I paused that because I'm like, this will go on perpetually and it doesn't end. So I'm like, I might as well focus my efforts elsewhere, and then if I have extra time, kind of fill that in with Division. I beat Doom. I kind of just sat down to get dedicated it's probably under an hour, honestly, to beat Doom, but
2016?
The original Doom on Switch. I beat that, had a great time with that, and I forgot the ending. Spoilers to a super old game, but they're like, if you want the whole experience, you got to get Doom 2. I'm like, all right, let me go buy Doom 2. It went back up to $5. I was like, not right now. So I beat Doom. I'm playing Mega Man still, Mega Man Z. I'm on Z2 now. Okay. Really enjoying that one, and it's because that was the one that I was actually raised on when I was a kid. That's the one I actually had. I was way too broke to have all 4. So I remember I had Z2 and Z3. Z2 is the one I played the most, so I'm like cruising through that game because I know everything on that game. I didn't realize I had like that muscle memory still. So I'm cranking through that, and then lastly, Mafia 2 I just bought yesterday on 360. Playing that through the backwards compatibility on Xbox One, they cleaned that up a lot. Like, it's really impressive. It plays fine. It's not that crazy, but I enjoy like Mafia movies and stuff like that, so to be able to play a game that kind of harps on that. And I didn't have that growing up. I only played that demo. I don't know if you remember the Mafia 2 demo, but it was like a chunk of the map that you could play and kind of just do whatever. And so me as a broke kid, I just played that constantly. But I never actually had Mafia 2. So playing it for the first time, it's a good story. Yeah. So I'm actually really, really enjoying it.
Yeah, that's good. And from down the pipeline, looks like you might get another Mafia game soon.
Hopefully better than 3.
Yeah.
Mafia 4. And they need to go back to Mafia stuff. Yeah. Why was Mafia 3 barely had anything to do with the Mafia other than you hunting them down?
Pretty much. But it was that super generic, same animation. Yeah. You killed everyone. Yeah, so let's jump right into the stories. Like I just mentioned, the first one is a little sneaky stealth release, which I think kind of hurt them. Final Fantasy 7 Remake demo.
Big deal.
Is out. It's out there if you want to play it. I know it's out on, I think, only PS4. Because I know
it's an exclusive. So
it's exclusive for a year or whatever it was. And so I played it twice through. Once on the normal mode and once on their, I like to say, quote-unquote, classic mode. Yeah. Because nothing classic about it.
No, not at all.
So my initial thoughts when I played the demo, hated it.
Really?
I hated it. I don't know what it was. I wasn't sure if I just had super expectations. The combat feels okay. It feels like a more solid Final Fantasy 15 style. Final Fantasy 15 always felt too delay-ish and kind of floaty, and like it didn't really feel like I was doing anything. Where at least at this one, I do feel like you get a solid hit, but it didn't feel as solid as like Kingdom Hearts. I know Kingdom Hearts is way more floaty and cartoony. I just didn't feel like I was making much impact.
Okay. So and you would think with the Cloud.
You think that sword. You think you'd be feeling those big parts. I'll be honest. I did love playing as Barrett.
The shooting,
the shooting stuff.
Shooting those turrets off the way.
I felt that was super cool. So I don't know if it was just my initial thought. So then I did replay it on classic mode because I thought maybe it was more. This is where I guess they kind of tongue-in-cheek lied because they were talking about like, oh, fans of the classic series, well, the classic game will love classic mode. Classic mode is autoplay.
For sure.
It just, all you do is wait for the bar to go up and then choose your move. He auto fights. So immediately I was like, disgusting.
It's way too little interaction for me.
Yeah, you kind of sit there. It's super. If you remember, like Final Fantasy 13-2.
Okay.
Where you could just hit auto fight. I think maybe the first one did it as well, and the game kind of just plays itself. And every once in a while
you just choose moves.
Yeah. So then I did go back a third time in the normal mode, and I enjoyed it a little bit more. I don't know if it was just my expectations were somewhere else, where like I enjoy it where it's at. I don't think this game's gonna blow me away. I'm glad I did snag it on an Amazon deal months and months ago for like a little bit cheaper than usual. I'm excited. I think also just the slice of the demo wasn't where you shouldn't put a demo at the beginning of the game.
And I understand narratively why they did that, but because obviously you don't want to spoil things later on in the pipeline, but it's not the best example of what the game could offer.
Super tutorial-y, and like all those tutorial, and like then we have to do this again when the game releases. And again, I feel a little bit better on it now. I'm like, yeah, of course I'm gonna get the game. I'm gonna probably really enjoy it. I think hopefully this is just a very early build, and some of this stuff's been smoothed out.
Yeah.
Because that boss, when you fight that, the first boss of the game, which again, it's not a spoiler.
Yeah.
But
game's been us.
That giant, tank thing. Yeah, I felt like I was there forever, and it wasn't that I was bad at the game, because the game's kind of easy.
It's just spongy as hell.
It's just super. Yeah, he just took the most hits, and it's just like, I wish Kyle did a little more damage or something like that, because this fight took forever. What were your thoughts on it? You got to try it out too.
So yeah, I played it 1.5 times, and that halftime was really just me trying out the classic system to see how that played. Yeah. And yeah, a couple minutes in, I was like, okay, I'm okay. I don't like it enough to replay the entire demo. I can take it from different perspectives. So like from a visual standpoint, love it. It looks like gorgeous. It's pretty much everything I'd want. I remember playing Advent Children back in the day and being like, why don't we have like a good looking Final Fantasy on a current gen console at the time, not the PS4, but yeah. And so from that perspective, loved it. All the character designs, everything looks phenomenal. The battle system, first thing, like the couple first minutes within my first combat encounter, I was like blown away, because just being able to actively control Cloud in that capacity, considering how many times I've played the original 7, was like mind-blowing to me. I'm like, yeah, this is what I wanted as a kid. Now, as time progressed and I got to the last boss, I looked at it a little bit more critically, and I'm like, yeah, things are a little spongy. It does lack like that impact that I'm talking about, and I hate... There's like fighters that like drive me nuts, where like I feel like you hit and there's nothing, or if you like hit and there's too much, and I don't feel like it really got that sweet spot. It felt kind of like Phantasy Star in that regard. Have you you know what I'm talking about? Where you're kind of just slashing and nothing really happens, and you see the damage going up, so you're doing damage, but there's not enough reaction on the enemy's part. And in that regard, I actually feel like it reacts a little bit less than 15 does, because I've played 15 relatively recently since it's gone on Game Pass, and I feel like 7 doesn't hit the way it probably should. Again, this could be an early build, because I remember maybe a couple months back, a lot of games journalists were talking about how they played a vertical slice of this game. This could be the same slice that they've just finally released it for mainstream consumption, considering how close it is to launch. And then since then, they've made a lot of adjustments to the games. Who knows? But
yeah, I hope so. And from the very few people who can comment, they do say this is an early build, and demos usually are an early build. So again, day one when it comes out, maybe I'll eat all my words. I'll gladly put this as my, quote unquote game of the year contender.
It's a long game. It could go a lot of places.
Again, that's my least favorite part of Final Fantasy VII, is doing that beginning. So I don't know if it was just that aspect. Maybe I want to see more of Midgard. I know, again, it's a demo. I don't know. But
once it opens up, maybe
I think once it opens up, it'll be a complete thing. And the combat system, again, I got used to really quickly. But hopefully just a few tweaks, maybe just a little, just tighten it up a little bit. And then we have a solid game.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so on to the next story. We have a new Star Wars game that has been kind of leaked. Again, we haven't had any formal confirmation whether this is legit, but the fact that we have a visual component to it tells us that on the European PSN store, we saw kind of like a grab go on. And it said Star Wars Project Maverick, whatever that means. We don't know much beyond that. It has been since taken down. So that tells me, since it was on the PSN store, this exists in some capacity. As for the scale, we don't know. We don't know if this is supposed to be their next big thing. We don't know if this is a smaller thing. It could be a VR title for all we know. So my guess from Project Maverick by the title, I'm thinking it's some kind of flight Rogue Squadron-esque game, as opposed to something that might be like more Battlefront oriented, or another solo, single player game. So what do you think about it?
Yeah, I think the same. When I saw the splash screen, the leak of the the PSN store, I thought when I saw Maverick, I was like, well, that sounds very Rogue Squadron, Flight Simulator, something.
Jedi Starfighter.
Jedi Starfighter. And then people were trying to disprove it very quick. This is the exact same way we got confirmation Resident Evil 3.
For sure.
We all kind of knew Resident Evil 3 Remake was coming, but I think it even was the European PSN that put the pre-order screens up. A lot of leaks come out of there. Yeah, Amazon France and all these places usually post these things up because someone missed that button. So I assume it's a real thing. I'm surprised they went with, because you hear Project Maverick, it sounds like a in development name, and then like the splash screen also looked very almost Solo, like the movie, kind of at the angle, splashy. Again, I'm excited to see what it is. You assume if this wasn't supposed to leak, this may have been something that was supposed to be shown at a conference very soon that may have been canceled with all the cancellations and so many people dropping out of like PAX that just passed and all these other conferences that may have been canceled. Maybe this was supposed to be already announced and someone just kind of forgot to change the date. But I'm excited to see what it is. But besides that, I guess we kind of just wait.
I'm excited to see who's doing it because
that's
timeline-wise, it has to be an EA game.
It has to be an EA game. There's no way it's
It's not Respawn.
It's not Respawn.
They just finished. I doubt they're putting DICE on something like that.
No, you gotta assume DICE is probably doing Battlefront
3 or some kind of shooter.
Or a shooter of some version. So I guess we'll see when at some point they're gonna say something.
Yeah, for sure.
Because time's up. Time's coming. So again, coming off anticipated games because we all love our Star Wars, but a new date finally for Ghost of Tsushima.
Finally.
So highly anticipated game. This is the next game by Sucker Punch, company I love their games. So this summer, June 26th.
Way earlier than I thought it was going to be.
Way earlier than we thought, and also has a new trailer, a new launch trailer, which I did not watch.
Really? Okay.
I wanted to. I really want to go.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, everyone tells me it looked really good. I was there. To be honest, I haven't even watched the Final Fantasy VII intro remake trailer thing. I just want to go really in very fresh. Especially more on Ghost of Tsushima because I just trust Sucker Punch and I saw this stuff at E3s and stuff like that. But everyone's telling me the trailer looks great. You saw the trailer, so I didn't know you saw it.
It looks crazy.
Yeah.
And I did skim through it because I didn't want any narrative spoilers. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to get like a visual for what they were going for.
Yeah.
It kind of just expands on what we've seen from it behind previously and then kind of dabbles on some story beats. Looks insane. I did have a fear going in. I'm like, I hope it's not another generic, samurai ninja-esque game. No. The style that I'm seeing in this, I haven't seen a game this stylish and this aesthetic since Shinobi. And seeing this rendered in that way, the leaves going, like this honestly is the closest we can get to like a modern day Shinobi and it looks phenomenal. So I'm really excited. Again, I have nothing but trust for Sucker Punch. There's no doubt that this game's going to be phenomenal. And Sony's on a good streak now. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. And I saw a lot of people saying that for a long time people were worried about it not feeling like a AAA Sony game. And again, not watching the trailer, I did look in the comments and most people were like, now we finally see the AAA status of it, which makes me feel good even though I kind of knew I was going to get this game. So that's not a problem. And I also saw the collector's edition comes with like a little samurai mask thing, which would be dope, but I just don't know if I can drop whatever.
How much? It probably has to be in the 200s.
I don't think so. I think it's actually really. I may be wrong.
With that mask, I would have.
With that mask, you think it would be pretty. But again, you never know with these collector's editions. So looking forward to that, and finally glad to have that date. I really don't think they're gonna push it because they announced.
I would have guessed that was gonna be August. I thought it was gonna be August.
Yeah.
So having that in June, right before my birthday,
you got to think they're trying to ramp up, right? I mean, no, not considering any delays, they want to push from August to the end of that year is all going to be PS5 stuff. So.
And also, it makes a lot more sense why they might not be at E3 too, because if they don't have too much to say about next gen right now, and this game's going to be out, that their biggest games are going to be out before E3. If they're not ready to completely blow out next gen, and they're going to really play it close to the vest in terms of launch and exposure to the actual console, it probably makes sense. Yeah, they're not going to talk about Ghost. That'll be out. They're not going to talk about Last of Us. That'll be out. So it's all next gen stuff at that point. So.
It works in their favor with them not being, considering that E3 as of now is still going on. That's always, May, everyone's going to be talking about The Last of Us. And then a month later, June, and it's coming out at the end of June, so June into July, everyone's going to be talking about Ghost of Tsushima. So they're going to stay in that conversation that way. And you got to assume by that time, some sort of announcement on PS5. So at that point, so not being at the conference, if the conference goes on this year, I think it just works out in their favor. Also, you get their games out, and those are big games, so people are gonna have those two games will hold you off for a while, especially if you go deep into them.
Yeah, I'm curious. All right, so we have a big story here kind of following up to something we talked about last week, I believe, when we were talking about Parasite Eve. You sent me this story, and I could not believe the timing of it. I have not heard anyone talk about this franchise in years. And then suddenly, just a story. It's like the heavens have aligned. So basically, we have Yoshinori Kitase, the director of the original Final Fantasy VII and producer of Final Fantasy VII Remake, and he thinks it would be a waste to not use the game's characters again in some form. He said on an interview with the famous wrestler Kenny Omega, I don't know if you know Kenny Omega, but big in the Japanese scene. So this is big news. At least we know on the developer side, there's interest. Now, whether it makes it through the whole pipeline, people, whether it's willing to finance it and stuff, that's another story entirely. But at least he's on board, and that's a big name in the industry to be on board with that.
Yeah, I remember when I saw this article, I just stared at it because it felt too surreal. I was like, man, we just talked about this. And I'm like, if we're, just you and I really talk about it. We've talked about it before, but I don't really hear anything about Parasite Eve.
Not at all.
To get someone who's not just in the know, like part of the job that would make it happen, wants to do it. We've seen stranger things come out. I mean, for sure. You guys, we have Crash Bandicoot trilogies back. Crash Bandicoot Kart Racer, Spyro came back, and all these other remakes. I don't see why not. Why not? I think right now's the time, because you're thinking Resident Evil 3 will come and go.
Yep.
You're years before probably Resident Evil 8. This would be such a good game to fit that horror. There, there's no Evil Within's coming out. There's nothing. There's always small horror games, but this could be another big staple. Like, every time I just think about it, and when I saw this article, I saw Parasite Eve with, like, the Final Fantasy VII remake engine.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
How gorgeous would that be?
Oh, man.
I mean, they looked amazing at the time.
It'd be terrifying, though, and I love it. I love everything about this.
What blew my mind the most was the fact that by name they mentioned Third Birthday. Because, again, there's Parasite Eve. That's one thing that's not mentioned that week. Yep. And then on top of that, that third PSP game that no one talks about, that I absolutely love. That was my entrance into it, and I went back and played the originals. Yep. Like, that was crazy. Third Birthday, specifically, if we could see that come back, like, that game specifically is nuts. I love that.
I think we probably will see it. Again, probably not soon, depending. Again, this could just be kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing, and it might be already in the works. I don't know. Square sometimes does so much at the same time. I won't. I think we're going to see this. Yeah. If I had to put a bet on it, I probably would assume we're going to see this in a few years, maybe. And
they're probably doing like the Wonderful 101 treatment, where it's like they're kind of testing the waters. Is there demand for this?
Yeah.
And again, demand in what form? Because it's one thing to, all right, we'll clean up the game, maybe put it in a collection, drop it, maybe remaster it or whatever, clean up the assets, drop it. And then there's another thing to give it that Final Fantasy VII remake thing. Yeah. That's money. I don't know if the demand is there to justify that. I can't speak to that. If I had to guess, right now, there's a demand for that in terms of a kind of lull in there. Once other games start coming back up, whenever Evil Within is back in some capacity, Resident Evil's dropping again. Once you throw Parasite Eve into there, I don't know how it survives in that fold.
Yeah.
The problem is games take time to make. So if it's not already in development, the problem is by the time that they greenlight it and start developing it, I don't know what the landscape's going to look like. So we'll see. I would love it regardless. I'll play it. I'm not a survival horror guy because my reflexes are not there and I get too scared and I freeze up. I'll play Parasite Eve though. No doubt.
For sure. So moving on to the next things that we wanted, kind of, not really. Some people want it, some don't. The Last of Us is getting a TV series. I don't know why, but I tried to go in positive.
Okay.
So this is a best case scenario right now, because you do have Neil Druckmann on directing. I'm not sure, they haven't really said the specific roles. He's teaming up with the director from Chernobyl, which is Craig Masson, will direct it, and they're teaming up with HBO.
Yes.
So it's being set up for success. HBO not giving them any limits, so gore-wise, not really nudity, because I doubt it. That'd be the weirdest thing if they put a sex scene in The Last of Us. Don't do that. I only say that because say that because of all HBO shows, they always throw that in for no reason. Don't give me that, but give me the gore and all that kind of crazy stuff. Having Neil Druckmann on it, And other people are in there. I think. Hold on,
big names. Yeah.
Big names. Evan Wells will produce, and Neil Druckmann will help write.
Yeah.
And at first, I was like, "This is cool. We can maybe get an other side of the stories in the world." But they've been kind of put, and then they kind of confirmed that no, they're telling the Joel and Ellie story, which kind of hurts me because I know that story. I don't want to see actors not do it right because they're not gonna get Troy Baker. He's he could do it, but the voice actress for Ellie, Amanda. I can't remember her last name. I think it's Amanda. Yeah. She's way older than what Ellie could be, so you can't.
She's older than Ellie is in Last of Us 2. So,
yeah, exactly. So it just doesn't work that way. So, what actors do you get? What direction do you get? How do you tell some of these story scenes? It's an HBO show, so you have to assume these are hour-long episodes. So you're probably jumping in from 8 to 10 episodes. So a 10-hour Last of Us experience probably won't be terrible.
Yeah.
I just don't know what you can do to surprise us because the most people who are going to go watch this show are going to be people and fans of the game. So how do you keep them excited and wondering and, holding on for the next episode when we know what the outcome is? And I don't know. I was nervous. I was kind of happy. I'm like, all right, it's in the best hands. But what did you think? Did you...
Yeah, okay. So I've made it very clear my stance on adaptations, especially live action adaptations. Yep. I don't want them. I don't like them. However, all things considered, after reading the details, this is kind of best case scenario. Mm-hmm. It's not a movie, so you don't have to see that crazy condensing of the stories that we have to worry about, like with the Uncharted movie. This is going to get the full show. It's also being done by HBO, who are not known for restrictions on content. Mm-hmm. So, and they got the finances to back it, to give it the real money that it needs. Neil Druckmann's involved in it. Naughty Dog's all behind it. Carolyn Strauss, I don't know if you know her, but she's a major producer on the HBO side that has ties to shows like The Sopranos, which, if you know anything about The Sopranos, like that's best case scenario television right there. So, I mean, if ideally I would want no adaptation because I just don't find the need for them. But if there has to be, I mean, there's nothing bad I could say about this, all things considered. And, yeah, if they're retelling the story, they're gonna have the time to really flesh it out and show it the love that it needs. Yeah, again, 8 to 10 hours in a show. The game is not too much longer than that. I mean, you're looking at a 10 to 15 hour game, maybe 20 on the long end. So, I mean, I think they can do a good job like this and give it the treatment it needs. And again, with Neil Druckmann over there overseeing it, I don't think he's gonna let them destroy it.
Yep.
If this turns out bad, then I have no faith in anything ever.
That's true.
This is anything everyone would ever want. So I'm trying to be positive, and I am optimistic that all things considered, this is best case scenario, and that it's going to output a good quality work. It might not ultimately be for me. I'll probably still be like, I'd rather play the game. However, to a certain contingent of the audience that prefer this medium, I think this is about as good as it gets.
Yeah, that's what I walked away thinking, because initially I was like, ugh. And then, all the good news, HBO, this, these guys are all involved. So it's there, and like you said, it's best case scenario. I guess we just kind of wait and see, who, I just don't know. I like, obviously, I think it'll come out, I think it's going to be at bare minimum good.
Yeah.
Sure, it probably won't be this complete revolutionary show, whatever. The only thing I do think is probably going to put whatever comes out of the Uncharted dump look terrible.
Yeah, oh yeah. Uncharted's going to look nuts
and
compared to this.
If not, at least hopefully maybe they see the success of this and then like, all right, let's make an Uncharted series then, which again, I don't want, but that would be a whole lot better than a condensed hour and a half, 2 hour movie.
Well, hey, look at The Witcher. I mean, that was on Netflix, which is very hit or miss with the content. CD Projekt Red wasn't really that involved with it. That was kind of straight with the book and the author and stuff like that. And they output a good work. So having all these big names attached to it, I think at the very least we can get like a Witcher, which I know some people are not super fond of, but generally speaking, people liked. So
yeah. So again,
I have faith. I'll say that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm positive about it. Again, some people were super positive, some people were super negative. I'm like, I think it'll be good, just because they know. Neil Druckmann wouldn't be on it if he think it was gonna be bad. He probably wouldn't let it happen, to be honest.
No doubt.
So, do you have any fantasy casting for this?
I mean, like the Nolan North and all of them, like I was fine with them coming in. It wouldn't look great though. That's the problem. Is so Not really. Put Keanu in it. Put Keanu in everything.
I mean, if he's a fan, he'll probably be in it. I was looking over just like a few photos and a few mock-ups, and I haven't seen the thing that like hit where I'm like, they need to be in it. Like,
if they were gonna tell another story other than the first Last of Us, like maybe throw Ellen Page in there. I mean, she's a talented actress. She's got the look down for Ellie, but again, she's way too old to play. If they're doing Last of Us 1, Ellie, she's way too old to play her.
That's what I think.
And in terms of that age range, I don't know any 14-year-old actresses. So
that's my big thing. I know some people were like asking for Hugh Jackman because of his relationship with the girl who played X.
So they're looking at Logan pretty much?
Yeah, that Logan pretty. I'm like, no. I don't think it would work at all. I mean, I like Hugh Jackman. He's a good actor. She don't even know what she's been doing since. She's also not that size. People forget that it's been a couple of years.
People age.
Yeah, so. She's not that size anymore. She's probably way older already. I have no idea. So I don't have a fantasy casting either. I've seen some mock-ups and of course they look good.
Yeah. But it's one thing to have the look down and you could look the best in the world. That's just cosplay essentially. If you can't deliver the role right.
Yeah. That's true as well.
And then just being a rustic dude with a little bit of gray in your beard is not necessarily enough to convey the emotions of like a Joel that's a heavy character.
It's a heavy role and Troy Baker, did motion capture for that too. So all that performance, you got to give it to Troy Baker, who really just brought it home with Joel. Like, you knew him. You can't just stick a guy in a green flannel and give a little girl a backpack and be like, you guys are them now, because you kind of look like them. So
Tom Holland for Joel then. How about that?
Give me Tom Holland for Ellie.
It would make a lot more sense. All right, so the next story is a story that I kind of last minute saw, and I saw a lot of people talking about on Twitter. So the Nintendo PlayStation prototype console. Have you heard about this thing before?
Yeah, it was this is what spawned the feud between Nintendo and PlayStation.
Two big companies, for y'all who don't know, back in the day, before PlayStation launched their console. There's a whole bunch of details that I won't get into it, but big summary version is they were going to add a disc add-on to, at the time, the Super Nintendo. They created essentially the Nintendo PlayStation. It was supposed to be an add-on. Things fell through because of, I think, Nintendo's unwillingness to allow them to have that large royalties on the disc-based proprietary blah, blah, blah. So they severed things last minute. PlayStation, pissed off as usual. They make their own thing, ultimately outsells their console, the N64, the next one. And so that's the rest is history. So apparently there's a couple of these consoles out in the wild, or at least one. I'm not sure exactly how many, but these things never saw mainstream release. So these are very limited. And it was sold in an auction for $360,000, which makes it one of the most expensive video game lots to ever be sold at an auction. Now, it is, keep in mind, like, you'll see like complete NES sets and stuff like that go for like upwards of like 100,000 and stuff like that. So there's other things that go up there, but yeah, 360,000 for a single console is nuts. But the funny thing I wanted to add in here is that apparently the current owner, was offered 1.2 million at one point for the console, straight up, take the money, buy it now on eBay, and he said no, he declined because he thought he could get more on auction, and it ultimately sold for 360,000. So sorry to tell you, congratulations, you played yourself.
Yeah.
DJ Khaled voice. But what do you think about this? It's crazy, right?
So when I saw this, because I saw it for a while that they were saying it's going to go to auction and what they expected to sell about 300,000. I had no idea about that he had originally had an offer. So
imagine how that feels,
man. To know you put away, because you gotta think 1.2 million is not big. That's not a throwaway money.
Oh no.
So you gotta think someone who was trying to buy this may have even been someone from Nintendo / Sony, was
maybe an archivist
archivist trying to bring this in, or these big gaming kind of museums, collectors and stuff like that who will. I mean, if I had the money to throw away like this, I would have bought that too.
Yeah, this is not just some dude.
That's a piece of history. So there's no way that's just some dude who offered you 1.2 million. I don't know why you would decline that.
Yeah, how much did you think it was gonna get out there in the wild in the auction? I don't know.
I'm curious to see if it would be funny if the guy who offered him the 1.2 million was the guy who ended up buying for 300.
That would be amazing. Ooh. Save a whole bunch of money.
Do you imagine that transaction? I'm here for my account.
I kind of hope that's the case.
Yeah, you didn't want to give it to me for 1.2. I'll give you 360.
I got 360 for you.
What?
And nobody else outbids them.
Oh. But that's cool. That I'm assuming, and I hope this went to a good home. I know they've been very quiet about who actually did the purchasing for confidentiality reasons. I hope at least it goes to a good home where it's treated with care. This is a super, super big piece of history.
Yeah.
This is something that,
This is a weird what-if scenario that we, never saw go to fruition. So
yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for this, what Nintendo did with this system, which was last second pull out and not even tell Sony.
Yep.
Fun fact, they didn't even tell Sony they weren't going to even go with this. They just at the next, I don't know if it was E3 or whatever Electric conference, they just came out and showed that they weren't going to work.
Screwed them over.
Yeah, that they weren't going to work with Sony, and Sony was mad, and that's a huge.
Understandably so.
I would be too. So that's just a cool history. Also, just very funny that you decided to say no to 1.2 million, and you ended up taking 360,000. Like,
yeah, I just hope it goes into some kind of archivist video game museum type situation. It's not like a Martin Shkreli situation, which is like a super rich guy throwing his money at anything, and it's not a care in the world. Because again, like I think this should be displayed as a piece of history, but also maintained. I just hope this doesn't end up sitting in some rich guy's mansion, never to be seen again.
Yeah, I hope. I mean, maybe the person who bought it will resell it, sell it to Nintendo, so they can put it in like Nintendo. The Nintendo store in New York has all the consoles. Probably wouldn't do New York because it's
maybe sell it to Sony. Maybe.
Sell it to Sony. Sony, I don't know what they'll do, but give it a Viking funeral because
spit on it.
Next
to a pile of Vitas.
Yeah, if you guys don't know, there's a lot of beef there. They've cooled down after a few years, but
the old guards got to leave.
The old guys, the old guys did that. So that's it for the news. So we're gonna move into our loose topic of the week, and this is actually franchises we'd like to see adapted as movie or series. Again, coming off The Last of Us being announced. Now, this was kind of difficult to come up with because you and I both usually don't want
this was tough.
IPs and franchises to come back.
Most of the stuff I like, I want them to stay far away from.
Yeah. So I was trying to go to, I went a little in depth and thinking of exactly what they would kind of do. So what, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So keep in mind before I start listing off, what I'm thinking of is kind of like the Last of Us situation.
Yep.
So I'm looking at no movies. I don't want any movies of anything. 2 hours is not enough to do a video game, period. Unless you're doing like a journey. But even a journey doesn't necessarily come off the same way as a movie.
Yeah.
So I'm talking series. I'm talking big money, HBO, Showtime, Cinemax, that kind of situation. A lot of money behind it and full creative control on half. So the first one is Bloodborne.
Wow.
Yeah. It would be a horrifying series. There's enough lore there to support a show. They can go, but the thing is, it's so ambiguous and open that they can kind of take it any direction they want. They could show kind of like what the books or comics have shown, kind of like how that world ended up like that. They could have a situation where you're like the player going through this world. They can take it from a lot of different angles. So it's open enough for them to do a show and do whatever they want really with it narratively, but enough lore in there to give them like a strong backing. So that's why I was
I didn't even think about it.
How scary would
you can go all sorts of directions with that. You can go live action if you wanted to. You can go animated, and would be cool.
Castlevania style.
If you go off Castlevania style. Wow, that did not come to mind. I don't think I would have ever guessed that. But
that was the first thing that came to mind.
But man, yeah, you're true. That's work because you're so open ended there. You don't have to.
Everything's so subtle in terms of the storytelling in that game.
Exactly. So you're so free. You're not gonna, not canon or whatever because there's a small base storyline. But yeah, the world's so open that you can just have so much freedom.
It could be as simple as somebody waking up in that world and surviving like the game is, or being a part of that world and something way deeper, almost like a BioShock 2 kind of look. You're the big daddy there. It's more look into the world. They could take it so many different angles in that.
Yeah, I can imagine it. Like you get attached to the character, and then the first episode the character dies.
Yeah, something like
resurrects
super dark. Yeah,
in season 2 or not episode 2 and continues. That'd be really cool. I did not think of that. I actually kind of like that. So I went with, and I was kind of worried about saying this because I'm not the biggest fan of this IP. I can just see it exists, and that's a Mass Effect series.
Okay.
Now
that was my second one.
Is it? All right, cool. So I don't want it to be Shepard's story. I do know some of the basis of the Mass Effect the original trilogy's series, but that is so open in a world where Star Wars didn't hit what it needed to hit, and Star Trek is not even relevant. I know they have like Picard going on right now, series. But people are very lukewarm on it. Going to something that's completely new and has like the vast openness of it. I mean, you got to realize we're missing that super sci-fi feel right now. Absolutely. There's no Battlestar Galactica really roll. I'm sure there is because there's a bazillion of them, but there's not that main one. We're not getting another main Star Wars series. Again, we have The Mandalorian going on Disney Plus and stuff like that. I think Mass Effect as a series, live action series, hopefully, well, not hopefully, but in my dream world, that would be it. I think it just would work because you're getting very much like you said for Bloodborne, the vast amount of stuff you can do, telling a different side of the Don't even go to the same galaxy that
Andromeda.
Ryder.
We're going to Andromeda.
Yeah, go fix Andromeda maybe. But I think that was my initial guess was like Mass Effect. Because I do love sci-fi so much that I have not been captured so much. Like I said, Star Wars, the sequel trilogy was kind of a letdown after a while. I've never been a fan of Star Trek or Battlestar Galactica. All these other futuristic shows never really caught my eye. The style, I just can imagine. Like I sometimes see these super cool cosplayers have that N7 armor. I'm just like, yeah, that's dope. I want to see that. So that'd be cool.
Yeah, I mean, I also chose this one, so my mind went there pretty fast. And the only reason I say this could work is because there's this show, I don't know if you've heard of it, it's an Amazon original show called The Expanse.
Yep.
And I've watched it, and this is kind of like a high-budget sci-fi show in the modern era. Now, again, it has more of a niche following, so it's not as big as like a Stargate was at one point, or like a Star Trek. But it has like, different species and a lot of deep lore and a sci-fi thing. And my mind went immediately like, this could be what Mass Effect looks like. That kind of like dark, gritty, sci-fi, big budget, but not like this crazy space opera Star Wars type experience. Something very lore heavy, but not nerdy in the way necessarily that you'd see like a Battlestar Galactica. So I'd love to see it. Massive universe that they've set up there. So many different races, so many different cliques and races and planets and different things they can do there in terms of a wide timeline, because not to mention there's centuries of lore before the games even begin of stuff we don't really even see that much. So they could set a Mass Effect show that never even touch it. Shepard wouldn't even be born yet. And there's just seasons and seasons and seasons of show that they could do before that even comes into the fold. So
that's why it came to me, just because I was like, man, the options are just too heavy there. Like, you can just go so many directions with it, and I just think it should. I hope it comes.
All right. So my next one is going to catch you off guard. I bet you wouldn't have thought of this one. And it's Asura's Wrath.
Wow.
I was watching a clip of a live-action JoJo movie.
The new one, right?
Yeah. And I was like, just seeing this kind of over-the-top live action, I'm like, it's corny, but I'm like, how crazy would it be like if they did like Asura's Wrath? Like hyper stylized. I see like Netflix behind it, super, like crazy visceral action. Ideally, anime movie would be the best case scenario, but I think they could pull this off live action too if they just have the right stylistic flair to it. Keep that lighting a little darker, and like it's just such an underutilized story too. Again, we didn't get any sequels from it. It's just kind of one and done. It kind of happened. Nobody really talks about it. One thing, bring the game back in some capacity. Somebody please.
It's backwards.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, I need to play it.
I just installed it.
I need to play that.
I just installed it on my Xbox One, actually.
I need to buy Xbox One.
And it's funny, I was going to bring it today, and I didn't, but now I know.
I have it on PS3. I got to rebuy it on 360. That's like pretty much everything now. I'm buying like 360 games because I can't play any of my PS3 games. What's wrong with you guys? But yeah, Asura's Wrath.
Yeah.
How crazy would that be?
I would lose my mind. So I love this. I would like to say series, but we only have one game.
Yeah, it's just kind of a
now it's weird that Capcom has not. They used to have very strict rules on why they won't make sequels and stuff like that. I think Asura's Wrath was such a fun project for them and a fun experience for everyone, because it's almost like an interactive anime. There is gameplay. Yeah. There's a solid gameplay there. A little loop.
It's more of a passive experience.
But it is more like a passive experience, more of a, not decision based, but more like quick time events and stuff like that. But it's so good. The art style is so interesting. The feel of it, the way they have this old, like, Japanese, Asian style with the myths of their gods fused in with the futuristic, with the spaceships.
With a hint of Akuma in there.
With a hint of, a little Akuma in there. I think it's just super good, and man, I'm surprised I didn't think of that, because I love that series. And like I said, I was looking at that case today, and I put it back on my shelf because I just love that game so much. I mean, Capcom hasn't remastered it. I'm surprised, because they could have released that remastered with the DLC.
If Okami can come back.
If Okami can come back 7 times.
For sure.
Capcom, come on.
Come on, guys.
And they still own the rights, because there is Asura's skin in Street Fighter V.
So they're obviously dabbling in it.
They know it's there, and there's so many rumors that he was actually going to be a character in 5 and in Ultra Street Fighter 4. I'm surprised he wasn't. I settled with the outfit, but man, bring that game back, and I could see the series. I'll buy that on 4K Ultra HD. Give me whatever, because that game is so beautiful.
It's not that long, so like you don't have to worry about like oh, will they be able to cover everything in a season? It's like pretty easily.
Yeah.
Now, you'd never get a season 2 of the show unless they wanted to completely make original material, which, I mean, if they're doing a show,
if it's successful,
knock yourself off.
Yeah, if you're successful, you're definitely going to go, man, I hope, again, if we don't see it back in a series or movie, I would like to see that series come back somehow, some way.
Yeah, for
sure.
sure.
And I feel like we probably will. Capcom's on that slow grind up back to its former glory. So the next one I have, which is, I don't know exactly how I would want it, but it's a Fallout. I guess I'd have to go with a movie because I didn't want to think. I just don't see how a prolonged Fallout series would last.
A show actually might be worse.
It might be worse. More Fallout is not good, as we've seen with the games. So give me a solid 2.5 hours survival story of someone in the Fallout universe. I don't see where you can go wrong. If you take like the best elements of The Walking Dead and some of these other survival post-apocalyptic worlds and give it the Fallout paint, I think that'd be pretty interesting actually, because it's such a simple story, but you can just, because there's no, like, you're not going to take Fallout 3 story and put that. I don't know if you want to start with, the vault opening, seeing that done live action or really good anime style, depending who would animate it. I think would just work in the best way. And I think it would just give the fans a little taste of something to kind of Fallout's in a bad spot. And coming back with a live action movie, I feel like we'll just bump it a little bit because it's not something we exactly wanted. But we also didn't want 76, and we got 76.
Oh, yeah.
So giving us that fall, I think, would just be work well. And then you can also just get such nobody named actors, like people who haven't really hit their stride yet, and give them a platform because there is no depth. There's no standard for Fallout. So
yeah, there's no main character.
Yeah, there's
they
no
have to worry
main
about
character.
either.
It's all your created characters. So getting an actor who may not be as known yet to really give him a shot to fill the role, I think it'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, and the moment you said Fallout, I was like, I just imagined the aesthetic of like a Book of Eli.
Yeah,
like something subtle. Not you don't need a whole bunch of dialogue, honestly. No? I mean, look at Fallout 76. It has its issues. There's no NPCs in there, so you don't want complete silence.
No.
But just it's subtle. Have that kind of 1940s, 1950s music playing out the Pip-Boy. Them coming out of the vault to begin with. You're kind of confused what's going on. Then through flashbacks, they could tell the story about how the world ended up in this shape and have rad roaches and all this crazy stuff. They can do a very subtle, minimalistic. I don't know if you've heard of the movie The Road. But it's another post-apocalyptic movie with very subtle storytelling. And I think that a Fallout movie works if it's subtle. Yeah. You don't want to have somebody, you don't know about the old world, let me explain it to you in a 20-minute monologue. You don't want all that. But just through little cues, they're walking down the street, you see signs of like the Nuka-Cola and it's all fried out. Like stuff like that. The mutants, very subtle. Yeah, that would sound amazing.
Yeah, I would love it.
And my last one, and I have this is actually a franchise, but I have a specific game in mind that actually a show could be better than the game if done right. Okay. And I'm thinking Far Cry 5.
Wow.
Now,
specifically 5.
Okay. 3, no, you don't want 3 because then you end up in the Tomb Raider Uncharted situation. Yep. You don't want that. You don't want it too tropical. But specifically 5, that country cult vibe of it, I think actually translates really well to a show, more so than the game did, because a lot of the problem of the game is it meanders a little bit. It's not as engaging as 3 and 4, so once you're in that world, after a while you're just driving a pickup truck over the hills for like the 15th hour in a row and you're like, okay. Yep. But if they can really condense it a little bit more to like an 8 to 10 episode series, maybe 4 episode chunks with each of the siblings, and I don't want to spoil it too much, and then finally end the season off with that final showdown between the main antagonists of the game, I think that could be actually pretty cool, and it could give them a chance to flesh out some of the narratives that maybe they glossed over in the game that they maybe didn't want to tackle too much because of the political climate at the time. Yeah, true. Then maybe they could really go there in terms of some of like the religious iconography and the narrative there and how they feel about that in a show more so than the game. So, and again, you cut out all the gameplay weaknesses and just focus on that story. I think they could make something pretty cool.
You're true, because that's very right, because the main story of Fallout 5, Fallout. I mean, Far Cry. Sorry, Far Cry 5 is good. Like the whole culty religious feel of the father, and he's got the siblings and all that kind of stuff.
And how a cult took over an entire region.
Took over that whole region. I can just see it work out almost step for step. The way the game opens up when you're like landing, you're there to arrest him at first, and that whole situation breaks out. I just can see it work so well. The style, I can just see kind of the pandering of like the open fields with some music in the backdrop, and then someone being tortured or whatever.
Somebody like nailed to
the cross and stuff. So eliminating all the gameplay parts, you still have a solid experience and a solid story. I don't need to see the character hunt or drive a jeep, like you said, or whatever,
fly a plane,
or drive all these
but that giant statue that they have, like that could be a whole episode of raiding that. Like there'd be some cool stuff there. Yeah,
it reminds me of like aesthetically when I think about it. Like when you go to the town, he has the big church there and stuff like that. I don't know if you've ever seen AMC's Preacher.
I have. Yes, that would be
there
perfect.
You go.
Exactly.
You see what I'm thinking about? That kind of when he goes to the village and it's just like empty, stylish. I just think that is where you want to hit that sweet spot, because that's what reminded me a lot when I was playing Far Cry 5. I was like, man, every time I'd go to the cities and this stuff would break out with the religion, I'm like, man, this reminded me of Preacher, which is not as dark as its comics roots, but man, that would fit so well.
And I'm just kind of picturing how like the first episode can go, where like they can kind of mislead you into the direction it's going. So it starts off in a nice little town and everybody's having, it's Sunday morning, everybody's going to church. Nice to see you, Pastor. Everything's fine. And now out in a moment, just next scene, that church is on fire and people are being tortured in the street and gutted and something super dark. And then you could start the actual story of the sheriff coming in to rein things in. Like it's next thing you see this town burning up and all crazy, and then it turns into a news report and you have like the sheriff watching the news report on the helicopter ready to arrest them. Like, how crazy would that be?
I would love it so much. I kind of want.
It would need to be like an HBO to do it. Something.
Yeah, you gotta go right. HBO, Showtime.
Because otherwise, it's just kind of a boring country action thing. Yeah. Dukes of Hazzard. I don't want to see that.
No, you don't want to get too. You don't want to get comedic in a sense. That's why you gotta. I'd even stay away from Netflix in a sense.
Yeah.
Maybe Amazon Prime. They're very kind of.
They just need to be able to go there.
Yeah.
Fully, because what differentiates it from other shows we've seen is that something is profoundly wrong in this town. Something. These people are sick in the head. They're on drugs and they have these crazy radical beliefs, and the only solution to this is wiping them the hell out. If you're on Netflix, you try to negotiate, make things nice, psychological. No, you just have to wipe them out. And so I'm excited to see if they ever go into any of these properties, rather than freaking Uncharted. No thanks.
So for my last one, it's one that they already tried making this a movie, did not work. And being such a big fan of it myself, and I know you are now, of where the series is now, is the Assassin's Creed franchise. So I know there are some animated films, there are some live action stuff that they've done.
Movie.
So there's the newest live action movie that went to theaters. There was an older live action that showed the story of Ezio. I think it was his father.
Okay. Is that a prequel then?
It's like a prequel to Assassin's Creed 2 and everything he kind of does, and it leads to Ezio being Ezio. But I think there's probably going to always be that undertone of the futuristic world. Okay. But thinking of every season being a new era. So, season 1 is like, let's say, Altair's story. You probably would have to start there to really show everything. And also, Altair has been so ignored recently that people will kind of want that game remastered in the best way. And then season 2, start just somewhere else. You may not want to go immediately to Renaissance era and Ezio.
That's a big jump.
I don't want to do that stuff, but being able to each season be its own kind of thing, in a way, almost Altered Carbon is every season is a new actor playing that thing, doing that where it's one overarching story, which would I guess be the present day timeline, and then the bulk of the shows being this old classic style. I just think it would work really well. You also get a different chance to do every season almost differently. Also, Westworld did this.
That's what I was going to say.
Westworld did this very well, where season 1 was, Western. It was Red Dead Redemption, and then season 2 and season 3 are just going completely wild to the other worlds. I think that just makes sense and gives you, if you don't want the same director throughout the whole series, let's say, that will help you not just step on each other's toes. Like, all right, you get this era, you get feudal Japan. That's going to be your story. Season 2 will be Italy. You get to do this story, and I just think it gives you a platform, and you get a solid timeline. You don't have to stretch your story for 7 seasons because you get to condense it.
I just wonder what approach they will take because again, the main thing about the old games was that fact that it's like, yes, this takes place in the past, but this is all connected through this kind of main timeline in the future, and we're looking back, as opposed to the newer games that the main focus is the past, and there's loose connections through the fact that there is things happening outside it, but it doesn't hold the weight that the original did.
Yeah.
So I just wonder with the show, the main focus will be completely the main character. Everything takes place in the past, in the Renaissance setting, in Italy, wherever they go, Rome, wherever, and then the futuristic aspect of it is either not there, or that's the subtle connection that they're alluding to, glitches and the look and stuff like that. Like, especially once you get to Odyssey, it's very subtle until the very last act where they completely pull you out. And not to spoil it, but they go crazy with it. I just wonder how the show would take place, because the moment you introduce that futuristic mechanic, if you don't put the time into that, it's going to be super confusing. Yeah. And Westworld does it, but I feel like in some ways they're barely able to tackle that, because there's a lot going on in Westworld. You have a whole storyline going on with this League of Assassins hundreds of years ago, and then suddenly you got this guy in the future doing this own war, and then not to mention you got another season in a different place, and then you're going to the future with different people, and it's back and forth and back and forth. I feel like the average person would have a lot of trouble dicing through that. Again, you bump into the issue where, do you have 15, 20 hours to dedicate to this story? Because if not, if you don't have that time, then I don't know if it translates the best to the thing. So they would have to choose. Yeah. Are you going to be completely in the past, or are you going to try to do that traditional format? Because if they're going to do the traditional format, they need like hour episodes, 12 episode, 24 episode seasons
to get to really be able to really pull it off. Yeah, that's why I would love it, just because I think aesthetically it would be great to watch. But in my best wishes, you probably would want to ignore almost all the futuristic stuff and actually just have it maybe all about the elements and the powers, like the apple of Eden. Absolutely. And all the tools, and maybe just use that as the overarching story, and then never touch the future stuff would probably work well too, because Westworld even does multiple timelines, has the timelines in the Westworld, in Westworld with the spoiler I guess for season 1, there's 2 timelines you figure out pretty quick with the man in the black hat. So there's 2 timelines in there, plus the real timeline, plus the other one. So they do too much. That was always my least favorite part of Westworld. So I can see where your concerns are. You'd have to really reel it back, or just eliminate almost that futuristic world, which makes sense actually.
I would say actually, now that I'm thinking about that, last part of Odyssey and Origins does it too. There's that ancient race. I forget their names, the Izu or something like that. Yeah. And that is the kind of connection now. What used to be them going to the future and fighting against the Templars now is this race that has its connections to all the assassins throughout time. That could be what they use to tie each season away, instead of just straight pulling someone out of the Animus and it's like, oh, you're in the future now.
That's true, yeah.
They could use this race, this real subtle storytelling, like they're planting these crazy devices in the past, and then that's the connection on each season. So it's like when you have like somebody explaining this to somebody, it's like, okay, season 1 takes place here, season takes place here, and then season 3 takes place here, but it's all connected through this ancient race that they're trying to gather information about, and then that is a connection. So maybe they'll do that.
Yeah, simplify it that way. Yeah, you gotta assume they're, because Ubisoft came out and said they were okay with what the Assassin's Creed movie did financially. It's been a couple of years and they have not said anything, so I don't think they were that happy. I doubt they were that happy. They probably made more in microtransactions in Odyssey.
They probably just made its money back in. They probably they weren't in the red for it, but
probably. So I doubt we'll probably see another full-fledged movie. But like we were saying, with all these other shows starting to come out on series, I think games just translate to series better. That's why Castlevania did it. Now we have Witcher. Witcher is a half and half because it is more based off the books than it is in Witcher. In any of the Witcher games, and of course Last of Us is doing it now. So we'll see where they go with this. Sure. And it probably won't be long before we see the next video game adaptation announced, or even come out soon. Yeah, because PlayStation has a whole sub-unit dedicated to it now, so the output's going to happen. Not to mention, if Last of Us is even remotely successful, they're coming fast. Yeah. And
Horizon, probably.
If not, we'll see him in animation style because Devil May Cry is coming.
True.
I thought that was actually going to come before season 3 of
Castlevania.
Surprised, yeah. I thought they were
because that's been in the making for a while now.
Yeah, I think
a couple years.
I want to say before Castlevania season 2 or around that time.
It was after the success of season 1 of Castlevania. They were like that they're looking at other properties to do it, and eventually either right before season 2 came out or right after season 2.
They announced Devil May Cry.
Yeah,
which
so
can't wait. So you got to assume that's probably this Halloween.
It has, if not this year, early next year.
Because the Castlevania 3, we're in March and Castlevania just came, so Castlevania usually does the fall. Yeah. Maybe they have
they swapped them to
Devil
May Cry a little bit more time.
Also, they were taking too long with Castlevania, in my sense, so we'll see how that all works out. Well, I hope the best for us.
All right, another episode in the tuck. What is it, episode 7? Something like that.
Yeah.
Look at us.
Look at it. We already forgot what episode we're on.
We haven't even hit 10 yet, and we're already confused as to how long we've been going.
I think it's episode 7.
Well, thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Join us every Sunday. This was Jabron. I'm with
Steve.
Until next time, this is the NeoVintage Podcast.